we go now.
If you are ready to live a life of abundance, if you are ready to best your best, then come to the edge. Because if you are not living your life on the edge, you are taking up far too much room.
Here we go now.
Welcome to The Edge. I'm your host, Eric Brown, and I'm here live in studio with Mr. Mike Jones.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. We really do appreciate you coming back to the edge. Truly hope that those first 3 episodes benefited you and that you are ready, willing, and able to jump in the deep end because we're going to turn it up a little bit today, baby.
Yeah, absolutely. We're committed to going next level with this podcast and bringing you some smoking hot shit that we know that you will benefit from.
Yeah, and as we said before, we really are here to help you best your best. And you got to know that that's the exact same thing that we're doing for ourselves as well. We are focused on besting our best. Now, we know that last episode was good, but we're going to work to make this one even better. One thing that you can do for us to help us out is leave some comments down below and tell us how you feel like we can improve upon delivering these messages for you. And perhaps if you even have a topic that you would like to hear us talk about, leave that in the comment section as well.
Yeah, and for those of you that have not subscribed, that have just watched, take the time to go out there and subscribe to this smoking hot shit because we're going to be bringing this to you every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Central Time.
Yeah, so what are you waiting for, man? If you haven't subscribed, clearly you haven't looked at the other 3 episodes. What are you waiting for? This is all about you, and we're absolutely looking forward to helping you create a better version of yourself.
Yeah, and Mike, I know at that last podcast, we had a lot of questions and really people asking about the habit, being a habit when it isn't a habit.
Yeah, man.
So let's just dive in, man. Let's go there.
Yeah. So first of all, I know that can be sounding somewhat confusing.
For sure.
But what we're focused on doing during this episode is making it much clearer. So let me say it again, and I'm just asking that you listen with the intent to be influenced. So first of all, just receive this. I know that it's going to sound somewhat confusing, but I'm just asking you to receive it. So a habit is a habit when it isn't a habit. So let's talk about what we mean there, first of all of the behaviors that you have that you can observe, every behavior that you are conscious of, none of those behaviors are habits. Let me say that again. I want to make sure that you're clear about this. All of the behaviors that you have, the behaviors that you can observe yourself doing, that you have some level of consciousness about, none of those behaviors are habits. So in episode 3, we talked a little bit about comfort zones. So let's see if we can tie some of that together. Through all of the things that you learned by doing those things repetitiously over and over and over again, that is how you created your habits. Because you did those things so much, so repetitious, that you got to the point that they moved from a point of consciousness to unconsciousness. Once they moved to unconscious, then you had created a habit. You could do those things and not even know that you were doing them. You didn't even need to think about them. Now, one of the things I know you heard growing up, because I heard many times, is that practice makes perfect. So let's be clear about this. They were absolutely telling you the truth. If you practice perfectly like a champion, you are going to play perfectly like a champion. But conversely, you got to understand that if you practice perfectly like a chump, then you are going to perfectly play like a chump. However you have practiced, however you have repetitiously done these things over and over and over again, They have created the habit in which you perform those things the exact same way every time.
Wow. So I know my mother actually says that she has a bad habit of smoking. So from a habitual standpoint, she's definitely enrolled in that and committed to it. But would you say that that is a habit, a bad habit, so to speak?
Absolutely. So first of all, let's be clear about this. Think about how many choice points you have if you are a smoker. That absolutely demonstrates what's such a great idea, Eric, such a great example. Demonstrates how conscious you are, which means that that is not a habit. It may be an addiction, but it is not a habit. So think about the levels of consciousness. First of all, you consciously make a decision to go to some place and purchase a pack of cigarettes. You consciously make the choice to open the pack of cigarettes. You then consciously make the choice to take a cigarette out of the pack. You then consciously make the choice to light the cigarette. You consciously tell your body to inhale that cigarette. So you got to know that if you have that level of consciousness about anything that you are doing, it is not a habit. Your habits are invisible to you. So let me just create a picture for you real quick. Imagine yourself sitting in the cockpit of an airplane where you recognize that there is a 360-degree azimuth around this airplane. If you could observe a compass, you could see that it goes from 0 to 360. So there's this 360-degree circle, or azimuth around the airplane that you are the captain of. You are in charge of this airplane. Now, as you sit in the cockpit of this airplane, what you can observe, what you can see is 180 degrees of that 360 that's available to you, from wingtip to wingtip and everything in front of you. Now, you've got to be aware, and this is going to be an incredible awareness for you. There is another 180 degrees behind you, and we're going to refer to that as your blind spot. Those are the things that we are going to say are your habits. Those habits are invisible to you, and that's why we say a habit is a habit when it isn't a habit, because you cannot observe those habits. Now, it's going to be beneficial for you to know what they are, and we're going to tell you exactly how to get there in just a moment here.
No, so that's awesome. That leads me to my next question. So what coaching or advice would you have for our listeners out there as far as identifying those habits versus those choice points?
You know, I know for most of y'all, this already exists, but probably in somewhat of an unhealthy way. My first coaching to you, my first suggestion to you is, in order to be able to become aware of what you are unaware of, you need to get what I'm going to refer to as an accountability partner. Or in some cases, we refer to this person as your wingman or wingwoman. Now, I know immediately when I say that, some of you have a context of a wingman or wingwoman that says that this is the person that helps me keep my secrets. That is not the context of this conversation. In the context of this conversation, this is a person that helps you become aware of what you are unaware of. Now, many of you have that person in your life already, in your significant other. However, the only time that they are making you aware of the things that are in your blind spot is when they're pissed off at you. And the only time that you're making them aware of the things that are in their blind spot, these behaviors that bother you, that somehow irk you, is when you get pissed off. So what I'm saying to you is that the best way to become aware of what you are unaware of is to create a trusting enough relationship with someone that when they give you feed forward about what's in your blind spot, you do not hear criticism and you do not feel judged. Every time you feel criticized or judged, your wall goes up. The communication stops. and behavior takes over, which means that you are not going to benefit from the information that they are offering you. But when you create an accountability partner, a wingman or a wingwoman in the context of this conversation, you now can become aware of what you are unaware of and make whatever course changes that you need in order to create the environment and the relationships that you want.
So you just mentioned feed forward, and I've heard the term feedback. What do you mean by feed forward?
Well, beautiful question, Eric. So one of the things that we do here at Discover Leadership Training is we are paradigm busters. Now, I just want to say this out loud. If somebody walked into your office or into your home today and said, you know what, I got some feedback for you, immediately I'm going to suggest that you are expecting to receive some negative information. You are expecting to receive some, what you're going to call criticism or judgment. So we shift that 180 degrees because we're all about moving forward. We are all about focusing on what you want rather than what you don't want. So in our teaching, the communicative process is focused on moving forward. So when we are talking about giving someone feed forward, there are those who would say, well, let's just call it constructive criticism. So, if somebody says constructive criticism to you, the thing that you hear loud and clear is criticism. So we want to reframe that. We want to absolutely take it 180 degrees and we want to offer feed forward. The more we are open to receiving feed forward, then and only then we will become aware of our habits.
Yeah, so I guess that's the troubling thing, though, is that if people in our lives are telling us what we're unaware of, it might be a little bit scary. So what coaching would you give the audience that would tell us, hey, this is about best in your best, going next level, and creating that group around you with those kind of wingmen and wingwomen, as you refer to.
Right. And I'm going to agree with you. It is scary, but it's going to be scary until it's not. So the only way to get to a different place is you got to take a different route. Let me say it this way. In order for the things that you are looking at to change, you got to change the way you're looking at it. Let me say it another way. In order to get something that you've never had, you got to be willing to do something that you've never done. My question to you, what is that for you? Because there is an opportunity when you become more aware of your habits that you can now start creating the behaviors and the habits that are going to benefit you and the people that you are in relationship even more.
Got it. And I know I've had worked with people in my life that when I went and gave them feed forward, they really didn't want to hear that feed forward. So what advice would you have in that situation if that person is you, or you are in an environment with someone where they don't really want that critical information in that moment?
Yeah, and I would absolutely encourage you to not offer feed forward to someone who has not given you permission to, or who didn't ask for the feed forward. Because quite often you can do more damage than good if you're approaching it that way, as if you're doing them a favor, and they may not feel that you're doing them a favor. So I would encourage you, and man, we're going to talk about this in an upcoming podcast because it's so important. When I gain an agreement from my partner, when I gain an agreement from my team members, when I gain an agreement from the people in my life that they want to hear the feed forward and I want them to give me their feed forward, we have taken a step that is so significant in our personal growth and personal development because, baby, you don't know what you don't know until you know that you don't know. And you will never know what you don't know, or you will never know the things that are in your blind spot unless you create that wingman or that wingwoman that you have now given permission to give you feed forward that will allow you to create an even better version of yourself.
And I imagine as you do this work, you're increasing the trust in the relationship. and making it more clear what is a choice versus what you're doing on autopilot, just doing.
Absolutely. And when you get off autopilot, when you get out of that habitual zone of just doing things the same way that you always have, you are absolutely going to develop more authentic trust in the relationship. Now, I said authentic trust because most of you have relationships that you have assumptive trust. Trust that you assume exists because of what our identities are in this relationship, or because we've been around each other for a length of time, or whatever those other factors are. When you develop authentic trust, it is because you did what you said you were going to do when you said you were going to do it. They did what they said they were going to do when they said they were going to do it. So we want to focus on, and we will certainly be talking about this in a future episode as well, how to develop authentic trust so that you can receive the feed forward from others that are going to allow you to create a better version of yourself. And I really want to bring this to an end by saying this, and I really want you to hold on to this until we see you again. You will play this game differently when you know who has your back. The only way to truly know who has your back is to develop authentic trust in the relationship, because you will absolutely play this game differently when you know who has your back. So I say again, a habit is a habit when it isn't a habit. They're invisible to you. In order for you to be able to observe them, to see them, to be able to manipulate them in a way that's going to allow you to create a better version of yourself, I'm encouraging you to get a wingman or a wingwoman.
Well, there you go. From Discover Leadership Training's president, Mike Jones, a habit is a habit when it isn't a habit. Join us on the next episode, 8 p.m. Central, where we'll be dropping some smoking hot shit, y'all.
So come to the edge, because if you are not living your life on the edge, you are taking your far too much risk.
Here we go now.